So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jesse, and I'm your virtual adventure guide here with Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. I know we've got a lot of familiar faces in the crowd today, but if you are new to what we do, we are all about bringing conservation, adventure, and science into classrooms around the world. Now, this is our last program. There's no term for that. Penultimate is second last. Fifth last, there's no term, but it's very exciting because we have done over 150 programs over the last few months featuring some of the world's coolest scientists and explorers. All of those are on our YouTube channel if you want to check them out. Everything from cave divers to astronauts, zoologists, and more. I really hope you guys have been enjoying doing this as much as I've enjoyed hosting so many of them. Now, before I dive in with today's topic, I will note we have a Kahoot today. So if you're joining us at home, if you're joining us live, you want to play along, kahoot.it with this game pin. We're going to play a little game between the talk and Q&A portion today. Now, for today's program, we are bringing back on one of my very favorite speakers in the world. Now, as you can tell from this introduction, I am a very enthusiastic guy. I love science, I love nature, I love sharing stories of the world, and it's very rare that I find someone as passionate as I am. But the first time we had Dr. Eleanor Drinkwater on, I was blown away. She's even more nerdy and more keen than I am about everything. And typically, a lot of my programs are there. She's been talking about the Titan beetle, one of the great insects in the world. Today, she's going to talk to us about a recent expedition to Fiji, one of the most storied, magical places on this planet, to talk about her journey searching for swallowtails. So, without further ado, I'm going to bring in Dr. Drinkwater. She's going to blow your minds, and I'm so excited for you guys to meet her as well. Eleanor, welcome to the broadcast again. So nice to see you.
So lovely to see you too. What a lovely introduction. Thank you so much. And thanks so much for having me on again. I'm really, really excited to tell some cool stories about some awesome bugs.
See, you're proving my point here beautifully. So I'm going to turn it over to you. You're full screen. You're good to go. And let's dive in.
Great. Okay. So first of all, thank you all for coming along to listen to some stories about bugs this afternoon. My aim today is to get you to go away and get excited about bugs, to get out into your back garden and to go look for some bugs. So about me, about my background is I'm a bug nerd. I'm an entomologist, and I spend most of my time learning more and studying the behavior of different bugs. So I study a lot of different bugs. I'm interested in edible insects and what bugs we can eat. I'm interested in a lot of local insects here. But one of the things I love most in the entire world is going out into the jungle to look for kind of rare and really special bugs. So today, what I'm going to tell you about is a recent trip that I did to search for one of the rarest species of butterfly on the planet. But before I start talking about that, to put this into context, one of the things I love most about insects is the fact that we know almost nothing about them. How crazy is that? So if you think about it, over 1 million species of insects have been described. So this is a huge amount. This is really exciting. This is many more species than species of mammal or boring things like birds or kind of, plants. We know that there are a lot of different species of insects on the planet. However, the crazy thing is, despite the fact that we know that there is 1 million species of insects which have been described, we know that there may be as many as 10 million species of insect on the earth. So even though we know about many species, the amount that we don't know absolutely kind of dwarfs what we do know. And for me, I find this incredibly exciting. The fact that we can go out today, tomorrow, and we can find a new species, we can describe a new behavior, we can see things that no one has ever seen before, and often they're just right under our nose, which is what makes me so excited about invertebrates. And this is just insects. There are so many other types of invertebrates out there. You have your crustaceans, you have your worms, you have just so many different species of creepy crawly that we know almost nothing about. And that is exciting. And so here are just a few of my favorites that I just wanted to introduce you to. So this is probably my favorite species of insect of all time. This species is amazing. it's called the horsehead grasshopper. And the crazy thing about it is you might think it looks a little bit like a stick insect. And that is because it has developed the same type of defenses as a stick insect. It has this amazing ability to kind of blend into the local vegetation. Even if you kind of hold it, you can kind of see it kind of rocking backwards and forwards a little bit to kind of look like a little stick blowing in the wind. But despite that, it's actually related to grasshoppers. This thing looks nothing like a grasshopper, but it has developed these amazing adaptations to look like a very different insect, and in fact, to look like a stick. So this is a really, really fun one for me. Oh, these ones are also amazing. These also make the top 10 of my favorite invertebrates of all time. So this is an Amazonian giant centipede. You have to watch out for these in the jungle because they like to hide in your towel. Unfortunately, they do pack a very, very nasty bite. They're incredible predators. And they've even known to go into caves where they'll go up to the top of the cave where they find bats which are roosting. And they've even been known to eat bats. So that's quite incredible. Such a voracious predator, which is even preying on mammals, which I just love, but very unfriendly. So be careful of your towels when you're next in the jungle. Another one I wanted to highlight. So these little individuals are some of my favorite invertebrates of all time. In fact, I spent 4 years of my life studying these guys. In the UK, we call them woodlice, but you probably have other names for them in the States. You probably call them things like roly-polies and things like that. And so though I spend a lot of time studying tropical insects or invertebrates, there are so many things close to home, like woodlice, that we are still learning incredible things about. So, for example, with woodlice, what I was studying was their personality and the fact that they have amazing personalities, and their personalities of an individual affects the personality of a group. And the fact that we can still find things out like that this year, that's just amazing. So, we do have amazing invertebrates abroad, but I just wanted to bring this little guy in to highlight the fact that also you have some incredible invertebrates on your doorstep as well. Okay, so that is a bit of a background, and hopefully I've introduced some of my reasoning about kind of why I love bugs so much, why invertebrates are cool. So now we are going on a journey to the jungles of Fiji. So for those of you who don't know where Fiji is, it's right out in the ocean here. It is very, very exciting to be working on quite a remote island. Islands are fascinating places when it comes to all types of fauna and flora. You have these amazing little pockets of animals that manage to get there, and then they kind of end up evolving, especially somewhere as remote as Fiji. So you end up having all kinds of species that haven't been able to breed with species in other places, and you get some crazy adaptations that you only see on particular islands, and which is one of the reasons I was so excited to go to Fiji to see some of their incredible bugs. So Fiji is in kind of two main islands that you can see here, but in particular we were interested, you can see where this little pointer is, we were interested in one particular peninsula within Fiji. So the reason for this is called the Natewa Peninsula, and it is just a remarkable treasure trove of unique species. Pretty much every time someone does a study there, they find a new species, which makes it really exciting. However, unfortunately, so most of the land there is owned by different family groups called Matangali. So these are kind of like community groups. So the communities in these areas have managed these forests for many, many years, and they kind of have this system by which the community can decide how different parts of the forest are managed. Different communities manage the forest differently. Some of them have some rules by which if you get to the age of 18, or when you get to 18, you can get a patch of forest. And other times the community might sell off or kind of hire out the forest to different people. However, in this case, there's something called a kava, which is a plant which is beginning to be grown in the area, and it's very, very valuable. So a lot of this area is being kind of converted into something called a kava plantation, which is obviously not great for the species that have lived here for thousands and thousands of years. So the organization I went out with was an organization called Operation Wallacea. And so they have a very, very interesting scheme by which they do a lot to do with carbon credits. So different companies can pay to offset their carbon through certain schemes like protecting the forest, or alternatively, an additional scheme which they are working on is something called biodiversity credits. So these are a special credit in which people can pay money to pay for biodiversity to be preserved in an area. So the way that they do this is they have different kind of metrics that they look at to allow these credits to be sold. So it might be things like the amount of bugs there are, so biomass of arthropods. It might be the species richness of pollinators. It might be changes in butterfly richness. So essentially, this all looks very complicated, but basically what it means is that you go out there as scientists, so they send out groups like myself, and we look to see what kind of species there are, what the biodiversity is in different areas, and using that kind of information about the cool species that there are, they can then use this to get money to protect the area, which is ultimately the most important thing in these areas. So it's really exciting. So we went there for two reasons, basically. The insect team went there for two reasons. Firstly, to carry out a biodiversity assessment of the different forest types in the Natewa Peninsula. So we were basically going to look at the bugs that you find in different areas to work out where we should protect. And also, the other thing that we were going out there to do was to try and find a species called the Natewa swallowtail. Now, this is a beautiful creature, which is almost like a unicorn in terms of how kind of mythical and just fantastical it is. It was only discovered in 2019, and it's this incredibly large, kind of white, creamy butterfly, of which there's nothing like it on the planet, and it was only found in 2019. So since then, there's only been kind of limited, with COVID and everything, limited opportunities to study it. So we were going to go out there and see whether or not we could map its range to see if it's still there and to see where it was, to try and work out how we can protect this incredible species. So I thought that some of you might be quite interested in what it might be like to live and work on a research centre. So first of all, the first thing that happens is you get to the research camp. So this was my view from the research camp. As you can see, it is a pretty incredible place. So this was kind of what the camp looked like. So you can see here over on the left, that's where we ate. They had a kind of a shelter up, and it was attached to like a little house that had some kind of cooking facilities in. But then outside we had these big tables where we would eat. There was also different tents. So these ones, well, these were initially out in the front, but then they discovered that the rain was a bit too hard. So people stopped sleeping in these ones because it got a bit wet. But most of the tents you could see over the right-hand side under these, they had another roof kind of put on to try and protect them a bit from the rain. And this is just a little video that hopefully will kind of highlight quite how much it rained. This was most of my life for all the time that we were there. So that hopefully gives you just a little of a glimpse. Living in a rainforest is the most amazing thing that you'll ever do with your life. The diversity, the color, the smells, it's just amazing. However, it is also a rainforest, so it also rains a lot. So you will spend most of your life being very, very wet and very soggy. And as you can see in that picture, that was my tent mate who I was kind of living with, and she was trying to do her washing, and she was a little bit annoyed because she just started her washing and then it started raining, so we knew that she was just going to have damp clothes for the rest of the day. So rainforests are great, but they do rain a lot, so bear that in mind. Also, we had to get a little bit creative in terms of cooking. We had some brilliant cooks on site, but if we wanted to make things like cakes, we had to try and kind of come up with some ideas. So we actually ended up making kind of mug cakes. So this was one of the ornithologists who was there, who was studying birds, and so what we ended up doing is making. We didn't have an oven out there, so we ended up making dough that we put in the bottom of cups and then kind of like steaming it to make an upside down cake, and so that was pretty fun as well. So these are just kind of things that you end up kind of doing on camp, and it's a lot of fun even if it is very, very wet. But there are also kind of really magical things that kind of happen. So one day we found one of these in camp. So that is a little kind of firefly that we found, and there was kind of just the colours, the brightness of the kind of flashing lights was just absolutely amazing. And then this is something else as well that happened. So you can see here. This is a giant millipede, and this was actually found in one of the girls' tents. These things tend to mainly come out at night. And anyway, that for some reason, whenever they found an empty tent, if someone didn't zip their tent up enough, then they would find one of these and with them in the morning, which for me was utterly brilliant. People would tend to put them in a bucket and keep them for me so I can see them because they knew how much I loved them. And just look at how beautiful it is. Look at its beautiful shiny shell. Really, really lovely. You can see, though, there's quite a lot of different kind of spots you can see on my hand. There's a kind of orange spots, and this is actually a really noxious chemical that they would produce. So as soon as I gave this thing a little cuddle, I would then have to run and wash my hands as quickly as I could so this wouldn't burn through my skin. And it happened every time, and I knew it would happen, but they were just so nice to handle and so cute that I would do it anyway. But yeah, so these are the giant millipedes, which were absolute joy to find. And also something that was super fun is that they would actually, under UV light, you can see here their legs. So just at the top, you can see their little yellow legs here, but it doesn't really show it very well in this image. But we found that their legs actually glowed under UV, and we didn't think that this was necessarily known about the species before. This was just something that we kind of happened upon. There are certain bugs that seem to, they glow under UV, and it's not entirely understand why a lot of them do it. So we had brought a UV lamp out with us just to see whether or not we could see anything glowing. So we were very, very excited when we came across the species that actually seemed to glow under UV. It's very exciting. And so, okay, so that was all the fun. That was the camp. That's all the kind of like crazy adventures that we would have in the camp. But what about the work itself? So it was hard work. Science work is always very, very hard. But we had a great team. So here is some pictures of some of the brilliant team who we went out with. We had kind of different specialists. Over here, we've got the bird team who would get up at the absolute crack of dawn every morning, kind of like at, 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, so they could get to particular parts of the jungle before the sun came up. So then they could kind of hear the different birds that were kind of calling at that time. So they were kind of getting up really early to do those type of works. There were other people who were there was us who were interested in vertebrates. There was also a lot of mammals in the area. We didn't have anybody in particular studying them, but kind of interested in keeping an eye on them as well. So it was quite a lot of kind of hub and activity of different people kind of getting out at different times to study different things. Oh, and also there were the tree people. So there were some people who were out there, and they would go to different areas where they would actually get into the forest and they would measure hundreds and hundreds of trees. So they spent every day measuring hundreds of trees to try and work out how much carbon was kind of in these areas. So again, to work out where we would be able to protect. So we were also joined by an amazing butterfly expert. So this is Dr. Visheshny, who actually discovered or co-discovered the species in 2018, and since then has been studying the way that they grow, what they eat, the different stages of their life cycle. So it was absolutely amazing to be able to work with her and other experts as well, like Clive Huggins as well from the UK, who came out. So we're working with a really exciting team of people who would be kind of, really excited every time a butterfly was caught. It was just a really exciting moment. So the question was, did we find the butterfly? We found many species of different butterfly, but did we find the butterfly? And the answer is yes, we did. So this is a little video of one of the world's rarest butterflies. There are probably less than 100 of these in the world. You guys are some of the only people to see this footage of this incredibly rare butterfly. There are a lot of different mysteries about how it came here, how it evolved, and how we can conserve it. It's a kind of a really mysterious species that we're only beginning to kind of learn about its behavior and its place in the ecosystem. So it was just incredible to see one of these in real life. In fact, the first time I saw one, we didn't expect to see it, and one of my colleagues actually managed to catch it. So we were catching some of them, and then we would mark them and then let them go again to get an idea about whether they would stay in the same place or whether they would move to different places, and also to be able to count how many there were. And so the moment my colleague kind of caught one, we couldn't believe it. We couldn't believe the fact that we were lucky enough to kind of see this species. It was kind of a real kind of moment, and you just like, is this real? Am I dreaming? Is this so? There's just that incredible excitement when we did manage to net one, and then you can imagine how careful we were at getting it out of the net. You can imagine your heart kind of in your chest as you're just like, I don't want to damage one of the rarest species on the planet. But we managed to get it out, and it was marked and then released back into its environment. So I've kind of covered some of the kind of background to why I'm interested in entomology, the fact that we have so much that we don't know, and I find that exciting. I've also highlighted about some of the amazing journeys you can go on to discover some incredible things about some brilliant species. So I'm hoping that many of you are there thinking, okay, well, this is really fun. I want to be an entomologist now. So I just thought, how long have I got? I've only got a few more minutes now, but I thought I would just let you know a few tips about how you can get into entomology if you want to. So the first thing I would recommend is to go and look for bugs. There are brilliant numbers of bugs in your own back garden. The number of species that you can find under one rock, like even in the UK or in America, is mind-boggling. So, and I promise you, the more you look, the more you will find. If you start going out and looking for them specifically, the more you will find that there is so many things that you've never noticed before. Also, another great way to get started is to join a local entomological society. So there are loads of bug clubs or different groups of people who run bug hunts or have light traps and that kind of thing. And that could be an amazing way for you to kind of meet fun people and to learn more about bugs. I would also recommend finding your niche as well. For me, it's weird bugs who do weird behaviors, edible bugs, or weird bugs who live in jungles. Those are the kind of things I really love. But other people are really interested in bugs for other reasons. So for example, there are some people who I know who love pollinators and really care passionately about the environment and pollination. And if that's what you're interested in, then get into that. Join the gardening clubs, find out more about bees, join a bee group. Or if on the other hand, you're really curious about how you can cook insects, insects. You can buy insects online, and you can try cooking with different kind of recipes with cricket flour or whole insects. And that can be another really fun way to learn more about insects as well. So, I mean, you don't have to do either of these, but these are just highlight the diversity of ways that you can explore the world of invertebrates. However, there are also other things that you can do online. So, for example, citizen science is one of my favorite things in the whole wide world. It's so much fun. You, as researchers, can get involved in science. You can sign up to help a scientist do some really cool research. And often, at the end of the day, it's really, really helpful. You know, as a scientist, I only have so many hours in the day, and I would love to go and count as many caterpillars as I can, but sometimes I can't get to different places. And so having volunteer researchers go out and do things like caterpillar counts can be brilliant ways of gathering science and kind of, you know, building on cool research that is already being done. So go and look up citizen science projects about how you can get involved. So here we go. So this is another one. So this is another example on SciStart, another citizen science project about, and this one looks at arthropods in your home. You don't even need to leave your house to do this one. You just need to have a look to see if you find any bugs in your bathroom, and then you send it to this lab, and they can kind of learn more about what bugs are living in your house. So that's an example of a citizen science project that you don't even need to leave the house to be involved with. And finally, this is again one of my favorite ones, iNaturalist. If you want to learn more about the bugs and the plants and the animals in your local environment, you can get this amazing app in which you can kind of take photos and submit them, and then you can get help with identifying them, and then scientists and researchers can find out more about where these animals and bugs are. So really, it's a win-win situation, which is also a lot of fun to get involved with. So that is all from me. I'm hoping that all of you now have convinced you that being an entomologist is fun and that you should really go out and study bugs. But are there any questions?
Well, you certainly convinced me. I use iNaturalist all the time for bugs, and we're going to highlight some of the ways that kids can use that in a not too distant future as well. But if you want to come out of screen share, come join us. We're going to start with our Kahoot quiz together. So we're going to have a 4-question quiz for all our students today. Test their understanding, have a little fun. You can give us hints for these answers as we get to the final second of each one. Now, you don't win anything, but you do win Eleanor and I's everlasting respect, which is worth quite a bit, actually. 48 of you already in. Way to go, guys. This is so fun. I'm going to start off with this, and then we're going to dive in with our Q&A period. I'm going to head to Miss Hunt's class first when we do that. But here we go. Okay. I'm so excited. What a great, by the way, the centipede thing, you're one of the only people in the world to consider a giant centipede one of your favorite things, but they're one of my least favorite things. But there you go.
They're so cute. They kind of sit there like schemers. Ooh.
Okay. How many kinds of insects have been described? 1,000, 50,000, 100,000, or over 1 million? And it's a big number.
It's more than 5. I can tell you that. It's more than 5, guys.
By the way, millipedes I'm on board with. I want toxic millipedes in my tent all the time. It's just like venomous. Yeah. So most people got this right. Over 1 million insects, which, I mean, the thing that I like to take away from this is that every time people go to a rainforest, like every time a scientific expedition really studies in a rainforest habitat, they find new species of insect that have never been found before. Like, it's incredible the diversity that's out there, and that you can constantly find new things. And it's just, anyway, very, very cool. Fiji is an island closest to which continent? Who is paying attention to that map at the beginning? Is it Australia, South America, Africa, or Europe? I know one thing is that we all want to go. Fiji is like one of those places that, like, it's like on consistently, like, where would you go in the world if you go anywhere? People are like, Fiji. You know, most people got that right. Australia, way to go. Yes, it is just off the coast near Indonesia as well. New leader. Yellow fox takes the lead. Bold wombat just behind. We'll head to our true or false question. Bugs are edible and are eaten by millions worldwide. By the way, I'm hoping you all get this right. We just talked about it a second ago. But there was a spectacular National Geographic article recently about exactly this. And I want to say, I want to say Nigeria, but I could be wrong. But it was like commercial bug harvesting with huge lights set up in like metal areas to like catch insects. So most of you got this right. Eleanor,
Hey.
of the bugs you've had, what is your favorite? Like, is there like a...
I'd say, well, I tried making cricket cake pops last week, and I would say I would recommend putting crickets in your cake pops. Who'd have thought?
Who'd have thought? I got cricket. Cricket's quite nice, actually, I must say.
Nice.
Yellow Fox has our lead by 1 point, Eleanor, which is crazy. Going into our final question. Some tools you can use to chart local bugs include iNaturalist, SciStarter, your Sketchpad, or, and the answer pretty much every time I do a Kahoot, all of the above. Now, again,
what's it going to be?
If you don't have apps, that's okay. You don't need apps. You just need to have a curiosity and a willingness to document what you find. So the answer here, of course, as most people got, is all of the above. So let's see our leaderboard, and then I'm heading to Hunt for our not Miss Hunt, to Hunt, Texas, Miss Bradbury's class, for our first one. Bold Wombat, third. Second place, Yellow Fox. So who's our winner? Let us know who you are in the chat. It's crazy. It's very exciting.
Congratulations.
Yay, let us know who you are. I'm going to head to our group in Texas, Hunt School 6th graders. If you want to unmute your mic, turn on your camera, I can come to you for a question, or while we're waiting for a second, while you're doing that, I'll go to Jerusalem Elementary, Miss Fangstu's group. If you want to join us in Ohio, come on, unmute your mic, and you're good to go. Hey, guys, come join us. Ooh, we got a note. How many bugs have you found in your job? How many? No pressure at all.
That is a good question. That is a good question. Many. I've not discovered any new bugs. I've not discovered any new bugs. But man, I have certainly seen a lot of bugs. Like so one of the things I love about bugs is that you just catch and see so many. So usually when we were doing surveys, we'd come out after a survey and so there'd be a herpetologist who studies frogs, and we'd be just like, how many do you get today? And they'd be like 5, and they'd be like, how many do you get? And we'd be like, we found 50 species. And so it's quite a good bragging right. So you do see a lot if you're an entomologist. Is great.
Spectacular. Miss Jansen's class, I'm going to head to you guys joining us in Oakville, right down the road from where I grew up. Come on in and take us away. Hey, guys.
How does the rare butterfly reproduce if there are only like 100 of them?
How do they find each other?
How do they find each other?
Yeah. So this is a really good question and something that we're researching. So we think at the moment that there might be only 1 or 2 little patches. So they only live in these kind of really special ancient forests. So what you will have is you will have this little patch of ancient forest, which has a particular tree that they really like to breed in. And then you will have this population that is kind of living just in this little tiny area, and they will emerge from their special tree, they will breed, and then they will go back and lay the eggs. So it's kind of thought that there's probably these little fragmented populations. So that's a really good question, but something that we're kind of studying more.
I think I say this every time we do a program together, Eleanor, but if for our students today, whether it's bugs or history or archaeology or whatever, you should all find something you're as passionate about as Eleanor is about insects, because then your life, like if you feel this way about the work that you do, you're just happy as can be for the rest of your life.
It's true. It's true.
Hunt School, Miss Bradbury's class, come on in, guys. And Batman shirt. Yes, you crossed off my Batman thing a day. Every day you'll see someone in a Batman shirt. Sorry. Hi, come on in. Hi. Go for it, yeah.
How old were you when you started to observe insects?
Oh, that is a very good question. So I've been obsessed with insects since I could walk, pretty much. I was one of those kids who was always going out and like catching snails and then bringing them back and like leaving them on the sofa, or like, you know, having woodlice in my bedroom, or whenever I found kind of dead stuff, I'd bring it back and like sneak it into the freezer and try and hope that my mom wouldn't find it. So I've been obsessed with bugs for a very, very, very early age, and just never stopped, really.
Did your mom always find it, or were you ever successful in that venture? Like, did you?
Well, there was one time. The worst time that I ever did it was so bloodworms. Bloodworms are an amazing type of worm that look a bit like spaghetti bolognese, and so anyway, I decided to hide it under the spaghetti bolognese. You could kind of freeze it in like a block. Nice. And I came in one day from school, and I found that she'd actually got it out and thought it was spaghetti bolognese and put it on the side to defrost it. And I had this awful moment. I'm like, am I going to eat worms, or am I going to tell her I've been hiding worms in her freezer? It's one or the other.
It's a little off. Yeah, Mom, why'd you go to the bad grocery store this week? That's hilarious.
Yeah.
By the way, I feel your passion for this. So when I was a kid, when I was 10, about the age of some of our students today, I went in my backyard with a magnifying glass and a sketch pad and found 72 species. 72 species in my backyard, from woodlice to spiders, centipedes, birds flying by. And it's really amazing what you can find. I think a lot of our classes might be familiar with this. We do backyard bio every May, encouraging kids to get out around the world, exploring the local biodiversity. We use iNaturals for that. And so I hope our classes take the opportunity to join, because we'd love to find out what bugs live near you. Miss McNamara, Bruce and Grey County, if you want to share a question on behalf of your kids or try and do the audio relay, let's bring you in and check it out. Hey.
All right. Well, one question we have is, how do you mark the butterflies? Like, how do you
track each one?
Track them, like they're so tiny. And
yeah, so tracking bugs is one thing I love. So I just think it's really cool. For the beetles that I track, we actually have tiny radio tracking collars on them. So the collar themselves is about this big, and you put it on their back. So that's the beetles. Butterflies, you can't do that, they're way too small. So we actually mark them with pens. So we have these special pens that are non-toxic, and you can actually just put a little dab on the bottom of their wings, so that they don't attract predators. But then when you catch them again, you can kind of see the little mark. So we actually mark these ones in kind of like a sparkly silver color, which they look great. So
I'm sure they do. We're going to head back to Jerusalem Elementary. We're going to do another round of questions with all our classes, and I've just put a link in the chat to the Padlet. So if you have additional questions and you want to just inundate Eleanor with like a bazillion questions, you can do that, and she'll go on the virtual whiteboard in the next couple of days and check that out. But let's head to Ohio, Jerusalem Elementary. Come on in, guys. Hey. Are some bugs poisonous?
Are some bugs poisonous?
Yes, good question. So yes, how do I even begin to start answering this one? So yes, so you have some bugs that if you eat them, then you get sick, and you have some bugs that kind of if they bite you, then you get very sick. So you have venomous and you have poisonous bugs out there. So yes, you do. But you also have some sneaky bugs, and some of these are my favorites, and they like to pretend that they're poisonous, but they're not actually at all. So there's a lot of butterflies, which if they have bright wings, usually orange wings, then you know if you're a predator, don't eat me. But then you also have a lot of butterflies that are completely harmless, but what they do is that they pretend to be yucky and distasteful, and so they have the same colored wings, even though they're actually harmless. So yes, you do, and you also have some sneaky ones that tried to cash in on that.
We did a butterfly program not too long ago as well, and so they highlighted, so our Ohio class, you'll be familiar with monarch butterflies. Actually, I think all of our classes will be familiar with monarch butterflies. They're spectacular species, but they are poisonous. If something eats a monarch butterfly, it's very distasteful. Viceroy butterflies mimic them, so they look very similar, but they're not poisonous. But other things will leave them alone because I don't want to mess with that color just in case. So very, very cool. Great question, guys. All right, Miss Jansen, I'm coming to you. Hunt, school, and then Miss McNamara to wrap up. Miss Jansen, go on in. Hey.
So what is the rarest species of insect that has ever been discovered?
Yeah.
Ooh, that is a good question. I would say it's probably the Lord Howe stick insect. So this amazing species is the biggest stick insect in the world. They grow huge, and they're these crazy species. And actually, they found two individuals, and one of them was dying, and they managed to rescue it and resuscitate it, and so that species was just almost wiped out but saved. Later on they found a few more, and they found a small population, but at one point we thought that there were only just a pair of them in the world. So yeah, they're incredibly, but amazing conservation. They're doing so much better now, so check them out, they're super cool.
I want to say we quite often get questions like that, like what's the rarest thing? And no one ever has an answer. And the moment you started saying that, I was like, of course, that's such a brilliant example. Everyone should check out the Lord Howe stick insect. And this sounds ridiculous, but it's true, okay? Lord Howe Island is famous for something that you can do on it biodiversity-wise. If you go to the top of the mountains in Lord Howe Island and you go like, and make weird noises, birds will fall from the sky. This is an actual thing. You can look this up on YouTube. Biologists have been doing this for years. You make weird noises and the birds literally just fall and like bounce through the trees down to the forest floor and walk around sort of startled. It's a real thing. Check that out, Lord Howe Island. Hunt School, Miss Bradbury's class, coming back to you guys. Hey, guys. Oh, unmute. You're muted. There we go. Sorry. Take your time.
What are your favorite kinds of butterflies to study?
Ooh, no pressure.
Ooh, favorite kinds. Oh, that's a really hard one. this one was a really special one just because it was so unique, and when you would see it flying, it looked quite kind of ghostly when it flew, like it just flies in a really special way. So this was really, really special. I'd say kind of most fun ones to study. I love the glasswing butterflies in South America. They're incredible. So that you can actually see through their wings, and some of them have a little blush, so it's like looking through like tinted pink. And then other ones they're just completely clear. So when you're kind of going through a rainforest and kind of surveying some of those, it's like having kind of little bits of glass kind of like fluttering around the place. They're just unbelievably beautiful to see. So yeah, they'd probably be some of my favorites.
Very, very cool. Almost no biologists have favorite animals, so thank you for that as well. Very, very cool. Miss McNamara, I'm coming back to you. If you have one more question for us, take us away.
All right. So I believe we have swallowtail butterflies around here. So is there some characteristics of swallowtails that would be similar to the ones in Fiji?
Yeah, so they'll be a very, very different group to the ones that we saw in Fiji. So very, very different. You got lots of different types of swallowtails. But one of the distinctive features of them is when they shut the wings, or when you look at their wings, they have this beautiful kind of like swallowtail, kind of like drop tail at the end. So they have a very distinctive wing. You kind of got the top ones, which are kind of quite normal looking. But as you look at the bottom ones, they've got this kind of beautiful kind of end to the wings. So they probably have that kind of morphological feature in common. There's probably other things as well, but that would be something to kind of look out for. Just a really kind of beautiful kind of aspect of their physiology.
This has been one of my favorite programs all year, and it's one of the last ones of the semester. Eleanor, it's just beyond a pleasure. I know we're running out of time for some of our classes, so I will note a couple things before we wrap up. One, not that you care one iota what my favorite bug is, but I really encourage you all to check out the giraffe-necked weevil, because they are awesome, and they live in Madagascar, and they're so freaky and cool and wicked, so do check them out. We have a Padlet today. I've announced this a couple times, but if people want to head to our Padlet, share additional questions. Some of you are already doing that, which is awesome. I'll make sure Eleanor has that link so she can follow up and share even more. And really, do check out iNaturalist. Seek is the kids-specific spinoff of iNaturalist. So you can walk around with your phone, you see a weird bug, you take a picture, and it will tell you what it is, which is amazing. I think, Eleanor, you and I would have like died as a kid to have that. We would have done little else, really. Just walk around, like, all the bugs, what are you? Not spaghetti bolognese. Yeah, folks, thank you so much for your enthusiasm, your energy. Eleanor, it's extraordinary to have you back, as you know, to wrap up every program. We are going to bring in all our kids to say a big thank you and farewell in just a second. But before we do, is there a final message you want to share with our kids? Anything to keep their excitement going after the broadcast is done?
I think I'd just say, like, find what you love, find what you're passionate about, even if it's something super weird like bugs. Just find what you're passionate and just do it. And you never know, you could end up finding some kind of super kind of fun career that you can make out of it. So find whatever you want, find your niche, and kind of stick to it. And yeah, that's definitely what I'd recommend.
And there's no better message than that. Eleanor, I'm going to bring in Miss McNamara, our Hunt School friend, Jerusalem Elementary, and Miss Jansen's class. If you all want to unmute your microphones and join me in saying thank you and farewell. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day.